Okay, everybody. Just because I've been switching back and forth between the PS5 stuff and it was a bit wonky, how is my microphone level? How is the audio levels of the music? Is that all okay? Let me know in the chat if everything sounds good. If you want the music to be a bit louder, I can adjust that on the fly. Okay. Well, if you can't hear, let me know if my microphone is too loud or not loud enough, or if the music is too loud and I can adjust. Yeah, just let me know in the comments and I can adjust as necessary. Anyways, welcome to day 4 of my sobriety talks. This is my final day of my first full week of streaming. Okay, thank you, Mandy. It's been really, really good. I just want to reflect a bit before I dive into the questions and then the rest of my sobriety story. It's the reach out that people have gotten is so reaffirming for me. I wasn't sure what was going to happen when I was going to do this. Whether I'm streaming to no one or I'm streaming to 1 million people or I'm streaming to somewhere in between, it didn't matter to me. But knowing that there's a response and feedback has just been so rewarding. And so reaffirming that I'm doing something good, even if it's just for one person, but from people messaging me, it's more than that. So thank you to everybody who's reached out. Thank you to everybody who's sent in questions. Thank you to everybody who's in chat. I really appreciate people sticking around for the gaming as well as the sobriety stuff. To be honest, it's about equal, but I definitely noticed there's a bit of a dip at the end of my gameplay sessions, which understandable, but it picks right back up when we get into the sobriety stuff. So I know that there's some people here just tuning in for this, and gameplay, video games is what I love, but sobriety is a big part of my stream, and that's what I feel is the important stuff. So thank you for the first week. There will be many more, sort of what you can look forward to in the future. I eventually, once I'm done telling my sobriety journey, I expect that to probably be done sometime next week, maybe in another 2 or 3 more sessions. After that, I'm going to be bringing on some people to thanks, Rock. I'm going to be bringing on some people to talk about sobriety and their journeys, whether they're still getting through it, whether they feel like they're in a place where they don't want or have beaten alcoholism, or they just want to talk about it. So I have some great people lined up. We're going to be asking each other about our journeys. You guys can ask questions of myself or the other people, the guests, and it's going to be great. Again, there'll be technical issues that arise. I'm going to try and stream 2 videos at 2 cameras at the same time from different households with multiple audio streams. Should be a fun little project. So that's what you guys can look forward to. On top of that, I will most likely be starting to make YouTube videos about tips on how to be sober, how to get over the initial hump of kicking your addiction, things to replace it with, everything like that. So that will all be coming down the pipeline, and please just look forward to it. This is such a great project for me and something that's so important. So thank you. That being said, let's get into it. So I have some questions here that I wanted to answer, and I am going to answer them. So I'm just going to bring up the page that I was at before. So the first question, this isn't from someone who sent in a question. I just wanted to answer this because I think it's important to define what I'm talking about when I'm talking about alcoholism. Alcoholism is an addiction to alcohol. I'm reading this definition off the internet. This is further defined as a condition characterized by repeated compulsive seeking and use of alcohol despite adverse social, mental, and physical consequences. So it means you're drinking despite everything in your life telling you otherwise, which sounds a lot like me. It is usually accompanied by psychological and physical dependence on the alcohol, and the appearance of withdrawal symptoms when alcohol consumption is rapidly reduced or terminated. So if that sounds like you, or something that you occasionally feel like, then you may have alcoholism. You may be an alcoholic, and that's what this part of my stream is for, is to make people realize that maybe they do have some problems, or if they hearing someone else be vocal about it can make you reflect. Another question I want to bring up: how is alcoholism? Can you abuse alcohol and not be an alcoholic? Yes, absolutely. So I think that is important. This was when I was researching what is alcoholism, this was another question that came up. Alcoholism is different. So how is alcoholism different from alcohol abuse? So when a person is abusing alcohol, you're consuming enough quantity and in sufficient frequency that you are suffering ill effects. So if you go to a party and you are drinking an entire bottle of wine in one chug, or you do 12 shots in a row, that is alcohol abuse. If you may have problems at work or at school, you may suffer financial and relationship problems or become ill, but still drink. The difference between alcohol abuse and and alcoholism is that with alcoholism, you develop a physical and mental dependence on alcohol. So you need alcohol to feel okay physically and mentally. When that's hair of the dog is the start of dependency on alcoholism. The only way you can feel better is if you drink more. And I know that's a cheeky way of saying, oh, let's have another one. Let's get back to feeling normal. But that literally is the start of alcoholism. Like how you feel, that initial process becomes something that just becomes normalized. So even when you're not hungover, you wake up in the morning and you have to have a beer or a shot or a glass of wine or whatever. So I just wanted to make that distinction, because a lot of people abuse alcohol every single day. That doesn't mean that they have alcoholism or are an alcoholic. That's the defining line is when someone has a physical or mental or both dependency on it. Here's some questions from a couple people that messaged me. Thank you very much for submitting these questions. Have you tried to just cut down on your drinking? And would you ever go back? Yes. So as I talk about my journey, yes, there's many times when I just tried to limit my drinking. I think for a lot of people, that's sort of how they realize that, after a week-long bender, or even after a long weekend, or one night or 2 nights, or however many nights of hard drinking, you say, it's pretty common, I'm never drinking again. I feel so shitty. Why am I doing this to myself? Give yourself a week. The weekend happens again, and you get blackout again. And that's how it happens. And so I think for a lot of people who start to feel like they want to change, they're like, well, I'm just going to limit my drinking. I'm going to cut back. I'm just going to have 1 or 2 glasses. I'm going to just drink socially. I'm not going to drink at home. I'm going to only drink at events if there's a special event or whatever. And that may work. That may work for some people. Definitely didn't work for me, because I found the longer I went without alcohol, as soon as I had that first sip, I drank even harder that time. I drank to catch up for the time that I didn't drink. So it was very hard for me to cut down on my drinking. And I knew after multiple failed attempts at cutting down on my drinking and just trying to limit it, I needed to just cold turkey cut it all out and learn to go back to it. Would I ever go back? Maybe one day I would go back to alcohol. Never to the point of being irresponsible with it, never put to the point of abusing it. No, that to where I was, never, ever, ever. Would I ever get to a point where I can have a beer or a glass of wine or something? Maybe. I don't see in my heart and in my head, I don't see there being I don't think that would make my social environment any more enjoyable. With the point where I'm at now, I'm so comfortable with having being around alcohol, being around drunk people. When I used to have my Dungeons and Dragons group over every week, they would leave alcohol at my house all the time for the next week or whatever. And I'm so comfortable having booze in my house. I'm so comfortable with being around booze that yeah, it doesn't bother me, and I don't think I would need, like, I'm not missing anything by not drinking a beer or something. You know what I mean? And me and Sarah especially have really gotten into non-alcoholic beer, and it scratches that itch just as much. It's social. You're still getting that taste of beer. I think there's like zero point 0.1 or 0.5, 0.3 or zero point 0.1 or none is the most that there is in non-alcoholic beer. Even that little bit is just like, it's not enough to do anything, but it scratches that itch entirely. And you only ever want to have one, because I could not drink 12 non-alcoholic beers. It's the taste of beer just does not do it for me to drink 12 of them, but it's nice for one. So no, I would never go back to that. Maybe one day. New follower, Layer Chrono at 60. Thank you so much for the follow. It means even more that you're following me right now as we're talking about this stuff. So thank you so much. You guys can interrupt me with questions or anything if you want as well. The last question before I continue to talk about my sobriety journey: did you go sober on your own, or did you use a program, i.e. Alcoholics Anonymous? No, I did it on my own. And even saying that and I want to make this clear, when I say no, I did it on my own, that inherently sounds like, it just in the English language, the way it comes out, there's a connotation of like doing it on your own is better than doing it by getting help. That is not true at all. When I decided to get sober, it was almost like a switch flipped in my body and my heart. And I had no desire to do it anymore, and I pushed myself to go as far down that path as I could. That was the path for me. There's nothing wrong, and I would say more, it's almost better to do it with, the saying, it takes a village. It's better to do it with support. It's better to do it with resources. It's better to do it with people that care for you and let you know what's going on. At the end of my Republic time, even about halfway through, I was pretty socially secluded. Like, I would go to work and be social with everybody there, but outside of Republic, I was very reclusive. I stuck to myself. I had my D&D group, but I was never out on the scene. I was never doing anything. And that's not a healthy environment to try and get sober in. You want to involve your family, you want to involve your friends, and I know that's hard, but Lair Kronos, good night. Yeah, thanks. I think that's what you're trying to say. Good night to you as well. So using a program like Alcoholics Anonymous or any other sort of program is so beneficial, and I know some friends and close people in my life that have used that to great success. So the only important thing is that you start the journey and you get sober if that's what you want to do. So however you do that, as long as you're not harming yourself or harming others, of course, is the way to do it. That's the way to do it. It doesn't matter whether you do it on your own. It doesn't matter whether you do it with friends or whatever. As long as you get there and that's your path, that's your journey, that's amazing. So thanks for the questions this week. I will start getting into my journey. So the last time I talked, we were talking about, I was working at Republic. I got into how I got to work at Republic, all of the issues that I was experiencing at Republic as I started to drink more and more and more. I started to drink more and more and more hard alcohol. It got to the point where I was really, when I went to a bar to drink, I stopped going to popular bars because I didn't want to talk to anybody. There was a Boston Pizza beside my house, and no one that I knew in the industry would ever drink at a Boston Pizza. They want to be somewhere trendy where they can see people and all that. I sat and drank at the Boston Pizza by my house, and I would get one beer, or sometimes with one other person. He comes into the story too. He's a good friend, and still a good friend, who's definitely supported me throughout my sobriety journey. But we used to drink together at Boston Pizza, and I would get one beer and then just slam shots of vodka. And then I would just go home, or it was so bad. And then as soon as I started making a friendly relationship with the bartender there, I stopped going there because I didn't want to be known. I didn't want anyone to talk to me. And that's bad. That's when you know it's a problem. So we got to about there in the journey, and I sort of left off when the Warehouse group actually came back into my life and offered me a position They wanted me to invest in the company with the money I had been saving, because I had wanted to invest in nightclubs and restaurants at the time. And I had a decent chunk of change to do so. So they said, hey, why don't you invest and open up a restaurant with us? You can put your money in. They laid out a plan, a financial plan of how, when I could make it back, what the return on investment was. And we started moving forward with that. I had a couple lunches and a couple meetings with them. And at that time, we decided, all of the Republic and the management staff of Republic and Bar None, and we did, because Republic and Bar None is owned by the same group, we decided to take a manager's trip to Las Vegas. There was the International Nightclub Convention in Las Vegas. And at that time, they invited me while I was sort of being entertained by the warehouses to open this place. Republic wanted me to go on this manager's trip to celebrate our successes, bonding trip and all that. And I felt so guilty because I was about to go on this trip with the management team, and it was very graciously paid for. Like, our rooms were paid for, most of the nights out. I still spent a little bit of money, but a lot of it was paid for, which I'm so appreciative of, because like that's just such a crazy thing to do for a company. And like, yeah, thank you to everybody, Paul, Aki, Troy, everybody who helped support and pay for that trip. That was crazy. But I felt so guilty internally, because I knew that I was entertaining an offer from another company. And like, I used to work for them, and it was, so I had a conversation with Troy, who I brought up in the last stream series as someone who had really helped me become a better bartender, become a better employee, become a better man. And so I have so much respect for Troy. So I knew I needed to tell him. I was like, if I'm going to go on basically an all-inclusive trip to Vegas and celebrate as a team, I need to tell you. So I told him, we sat in the office, and I said, hey, listen, like, I got an offer from the warehouse to open a restaurant of mine. I don't know if I feel comfortable going to Las Vegas with you guys. And Troy said, thank you for your honesty. We've always developed a relationship based on honesty. He said, but come anyways. It doesn't matter. We're celebrating what we've done. We're also celebrating where we're going, but you've helped so much that we want to treat you regardless. So went to Las Vegas. That was the beginning of the end of alcohol for me. So needless to say, it was one of the wildest trips I've ever been on. I've been to Vegas a couple times before. Thank you so much for the follower guest list one. Fitting that we're talking about nightclubs and your username is guest list. I'd been to Vegas for my 21st birthday. I had been to Vegas previous to that with my family, so I was too young to do anything. 21st birthday, I went for one of my buddies' stag parties. That was intense. We were there for a week. But this last time we went, I had never been out to the big clubs. I had never been out spending money, going to all the nice restaurants and doing all that stuff. So, and there was the International Nightclub Convention. So as you can imagine, it was just a bender I think we were there for 3 days. And yeah, I drank so much on that trip. I remember barely being able to make it out of the hotel. I definitely embarrassed myself. I passed out in a couple clubs. I don't remember much. I know there's still a video on the internet of me trying to drink a shot glass of powdered green tea and literally coughing it all over the lobby bar at the hotel we stayed at. It's actually pretty funny, but still, it was great, like to spend time with all of the managers. But still, I drank so much on that trip. I lost my cell phone at a strip club, Spearmint Rhino. I was doing inception bombs at the Spearmint Rhino. I literally just walked to the bar. I didn't even go in to see the dancers or anything. I just started talking to the bartender, got him to make me inception bombs. If you guys want to know what inception bombs is, I can tell you another time, but this is about sobriety. So I remember trying to leave the hotel, and I was basically almost puking up blood. And on the way to the airport, I remember we got In-N-Out Burger, but I was still super, super drunk. But that plane ride and that cab ride home and getting through customs, I felt worse than I had ever felt probably. And I've had some awful hangovers. And I knew right then that I didn't ever want to drink again. It just, it was one of those like 3 days where you're literally curled up in a ball in hot and cold sweats in your bed. You can't watch TV, you can't eat, you can't drink, you can't do anything. And you feel so anxious. The anxiety was crushing me, and I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. Like, it was so stupid. So I was supposed to go into another bachelor party for another good friend of mine, who actually comes into my story later, as his wedding was the first big test of my sobriety. So I can't wait to tell that story, because that was a massive success for me. But I was supposed to go to his bachelor party, and I remember being on the phone and telling one of my best friends, Trevor, I'm not going to the party. I'm not going to the stag party. And he was like, why? Like, he was so mad at me. And I said, because I just can't do this. I don't want to do that to myself anymore. I know what it's going to be like. I think it was a weekend in Kelowna or something. I was like, I'm going to feel awful, and I don't want to do that anymore. And he got mad. I talked to Steve. He was the guy whose wedding it was. He was a bit more understanding, but obviously a little disappointed, but he understood. And he said, it's okay. I understand. But that's sort of the culture of drinking, when someone says they're not going to drink, it's almost a cultural thing to like push them to drink. If you have I'm sure this has happened to you guys before. If a friend comes out and says, no, I'm not going to drink tonight, it literally is everybody's mission to make them drink. And if they don't drink, then they're the worst. If they do drink, then you're like, got you. But if you actually like take a step back and look at that situation, someone is recognizing that they're having too much alcohol and they're trying to stop. And as a society, it's totally normal for us to literally push them into getting wasted or slipping a shot into their water or orange juice or whatever it is. And it's sad. Yeah, it's rough. I know it's part of the culture of drinking. And so it's no surprise that Trevor was upset, because that's what we've been. And he's never seen that side of me where I was like, man, I'm worried about myself. Like, I don't want to drink. And again, Trevor has been so supportive, and we're still like literally best friends to this day. So, and so, yeah, I didn't go on the trip. I downloaded a sobriety tracker. I still have it on my phone. I can show you guys right now if you want. The app I use is called I Am Sober. Oh, look at that. So I hit a milestone. I don't know if you guys can read that. It says, it's backwards, but it says 1,400 days milestone reached for alcohol. So I just hit that milestone. So thanks, guys. That's awesome. So good to see. So I downloaded this sobriety tracker. If you guys can look at that, I've been I don't know if that shows. There we go. 3 years, 10 months, 5 days, 21 hours, 5 minutes, and 55 seconds. So I think the 1,400 days was a little bit ago. But yeah, that's how long I've been sober for. So I downloaded the app. Was very helpful in the beginning. It tells you how many days, how many weeks, how many minutes you've been sober for. But there was one more slip up that I had. It was at Republic. We had a high roller come in, and he would always come in and order the most ridiculously expensive alcohol. There's a type of alcohol, I can't even remember anymore. It's either brandy or cognac, called Louis the 13th. Shows how long I've been out of bartending. And he would order it by the rounds of shots or by the bottle. I believe we charged essentially $300 for it after tax and everything. So $300 for a shot. And he would order either by the bottle or by like 10 or 20 shots. And it was so good for our business. It was so good for tips. So obviously anything that he wanted, we would cater to him. And he came in and ordered half a bottle, which is an insane night for me. I was working by myself, so that was a lot of money. And he said, but I'll only buy it if you guys stay with me afterwards. And me and Troy actually stay after hours with me and drink the bottle. And so me and Troy said, okay, fine. But he had a very particular preference, and he would drink. He drank his Louis the 13th mixed with Diet Coke, which anyone who drinks Louis the 13th, I would probably hate someone who did that, as that's pretty sacrilegious to mix something that nice with Diet Coke. But that was his thing, and do your thing, power to you. So the last booze trip I ever had, I was drinking Diet Coke and Louis the 13th out of wine glasses at Republic. I blacked out. That turned into a 3-day bender, and after that, it was done. Shortly after that, a lot of stuff started moving in my life. So when I was having that phone call with Trevor about wanting to not go to the bachelor party, I had 3 Chihuahuas at the time. They are terrified of rain and water, so they couldn't walk outside. It was that time of year when it was raining, and so I would walk them in the underground parking lot in my building. And I wasn't supposed to have 3 dogs in this building that I was at. So one of them peed on a pillar when I wasn't paying attention. Normally I would pay attention to that stuff and tell them to stop. But because I was talking to Trevor with this really intense conversation, they did. And I got a letter from my landlord saying that they were going to charge me this amount of money, that I didn't have, sorry, the sign went away. That, my landlord didn't know that I had 3 dogs. So I basically had to move. But I also, I'm so glad that happened. It was such a good push for me to change my life. So, I also had a trip to Mexico planned at the time I was planning on, or the time that I had to move. So, yeah, and this was after I had broken up with my ex. I broke up with my ex in January of that year, and then all of this sobriety stuff started happening. So I had the apartment to myself, this trip to Mexico that I was supposed to go on, and I was like, I'm going to move apartments. So I found an apartment, a really nice apartment in the West End on Davie Street. It was, I was working enough then that I could afford a 2-bedroom apartment by myself. So thankfully, one of my friends, Simeon is the general manager of Bar None. So Simeon, if you're watching, thank you so much for being such a good friend. He moved my apartment for me while I was in Mexico. I moved to Mexico. I went to Mexico, and I remember packing everything up, and there was just such a negative energy in that apartment because of all the fighting and all the drunk nights and not showing up to work, and so much sadness and pain, I would say. So it was such a good idea to get a new apartment. I went to Mexico by myself. I'd never been really on a trip by myself for that long, and it was at the Westin in Cancun. Such a nice place, and those 2 weeks were probably some of the most rewarding of my life. Just figuring out myself. I worked out every day. I at the time I didn't really know how to work out, but I was running. I was trying to do sort of push-ups and sit-ups and just stuff I would watch on YouTube. I read so many books, and just stayed by myself. I tried to isolate myself as much as possible because I wanted to focus on myself and who I was. So when I was at an all-inclusive resort, so people were trying to be social and drink, and I would put my beach chair as far away from everyone as possible. I wouldn't engage with anyone, and I just focused on me. And when I got back, I remember walking into my apartment. All my stuff was there. It's perfect. It's again, a beautiful big apartment. I wish I still had it. It was 2 bedrooms, a massive kitchen, a massive dining room. And I looked around, and the sun was shining. It was on the corner of Davie and Jervis, and I just knew that this was I felt so good after 2 weeks of not drinking. I still kind of wanted it, and I knew I had to work at Republic again, so I was nervous about that. But I knew that this was a start of a new chapter for me. And so as we start on that new chapter and talking about that journey, I'm going to end my talk. Is there any questions that anyone had about anything that I've talked about? Is there anything that we wanted to clarify about what I shared? Before I sign off, does anyone have any questions or want to say anything? Cool. Well, if no one has anything to say, thank you all for listening. Oh, guest list. Yeah, glad to see the stream. Sending love from Edmonton. Hey, so much. Yeah, it's thank you. Yeah, it's great to have new people on here. It's great to have new people listening to my stories. I hope it's not just, I know I hope this is helping you guys, but it's helping me a lot too, because I haven't really told anybody like this entire story in full with details ever. So it's just so great. So thank you guys so much. Thanks for everybody who tuned in, and look forward to, so I'll be streaming on Friday, same time, 6 to 9. Thank you, Mandy. Always good to have you here as well. Yeah, my video gaming will start at 6. The sobriety talk will start at 8:40 as per usual. Seems like it's been getting longer and longer for the sobriety talks, and that's okay. I fucking love it. So thanks everybody. Thank you, Sirach, as well. Be happy, stay safe, have a great night, and I'll see you guys on Friday.